Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Brendan Moyer's Playwright Corner, where I read plays, poems, or whatever is currently striking my fancy at the moment. Today, on this penultimate episode of the season, we are going to be reading Strindberg's The Ghost Sonata, a play in 3 scenes written in 1907. The characters are the old man, Hummel, a company director, the student, Archenholz, the milkmaid, an apparition, the caretaker's wife, the caretaker, the lady in black, also referred to as the Dark Lady, the colonel, the mummy, the girl, the aristocrat, Baron Skanskorg, engaged to the lady in black, Johansson, the old man's servant, Bengtsson, the colonel's servant, the fiancée, a white-haired old woman once betrothed to the old man, the cook, a maid-servant, and beggars. Scene 1. Outside the house. The corner of the facade of a modern house showing the ground floor above and the street in front. The ground floor terminates on the right in the round room, above which on the first floor is a balcony with a flagstaff. The windows of the round room face the street in front of the house, and at the corner look onto the suggestion of a side street running towards the back. At the beginning of the scene, the blinds of the round room are down. When, later, they are raised, the white marble statue of a young woman can be seen, surrounded with palms and brightly lighted by rays of sunshine. To the left of the round room is the hyacinth room, its window filled with pots of hyacinths, blue, white, and pink. Further left at the back is an imposing double front door with laurels in tubs on either side of it. The doors are wide open, showing a staircase of white marble with a banister of mahogany and brass. To the left of the front door is another ground floor window with a window mirror. On the balcony rail in the corner above the round room are blue silk quilt and 2 white pillows. The windows to the left of this are hung with white sheets. In the foreground in front of the house is a green bench. To the right, a street drinking fountain. To the left, an advertisement column. It is a bright Sunday morning, and as the curtain rises, the bells of several churches, some near, some far away, are ringing. On the staircase, the lady in black stands motionless. The caretaker's wife sweeps the doorstep, then polishes the brass on the door and waters the laurels. In a wheelchair by the advertisement column sits the old man, reading the newspaper. His hair and beard are white and he wears spectacles. The milkmaid comes round the corner on the right, carrying milk bottles in a wire basket. She is wearing a summer dress with brown shoes, black stockings, and a white cap. She takes off her cap and hangs it on the fountain, wipes the perspiration from her forehead, washes her hands, and arranges her hair, using the water as a mirror. A steamship bell is heard, and now and then the silence is broken by the deep notes of an organ in a nearby church. After a few moments, when all is silent, and the milkmaid has finished her toilet, the student enters from the left. He has had a sleepless night and is unshaven. He goes straight up to the fountain. There is a pause before he speaks. "May I have a cup?" The milkmaid clutches the cup to her. "Haven't you finished yet?" The milkmaid looks at him with horror. Old man, to himself. "Who are they talking to? I don't see anybody. Is he crazy?" He goes on watching them in great astonishment. Student to the milkmaid. "What are you staring at?" "Do I look so terrible?" "Well, I've had no sleep, and of course, you think I've been making a night of it." The milkmaid stays just as she is. "You think I've been drinking, eh? Do I smell of liquor?" The milkmaid does not change. "I haven't shaved, I know. Give me a drink of water, girl. I've earned it." "Oh, well, I suppose I'll have to tell you. I spent the whole night dressing wounds and looking after the injured. You see, I was there when that house collapsed last night. Now you know." The milkmaid rinses the cup and gives him a drink. "Thanks." The milkmaid stands motionless. Will you do me a great favor? The thing is, my eyes, as you can see, are inflamed. But my hands have been touching wounds and corpses, so it would be dangerous to put them near my eyes. Will you take my handkerchief? It's quite clean, and dip it in the fresh water and bathe my eyes. Will you play the Good Samaritan? The milkmaid hesitates, but does as he bids. Thank you, my dear. He takes out his purse. She makes a gesture of refusal. Forgive my stupidity, but I'm only half awake. The milkmaid disappears. Old man to the student. Excuse me speaking to you, but I heard you say you were at the scene of the accident last night. I was just reading about it in the paper. Is it in the paper already? The whole thing, including your portrait. But they regret that they have been unable to find out the name of the splendid young student. Really? Glances at the paper. Yes, that's me. Well, I never. Who was it you were talking to just now? Didn't you see? Would it be impertinent to inquire what in fact your name is? What would be the point? I don't care for publicity. If you get any praise, there's always disapproval too. The art of running people down has developed to such a pitch. Besides, I don't want any reward. You're well off, perhaps? No, indeed. On the contrary, I'm very poor. Do you know, it seems to me I've heard your voice before. When I was young, I had a friend who pronounced certain words just as you do. I've never met anyone else with quite that pronunciation. Only him. And you. Are you by any chance related to Mr. Arkenholtz, the merchant? He was my father. Strange are the paths of fate. I saw you when you were an infant, under very painful circumstances. Yes, I understand I came into the world in the middle of a bankruptcy. Just that. Perhaps I might ask your name. I am Mr. Hummel. Are you the... I remember that. Have you often heard my name mentioned in your family? Yes. And mentioned perhaps with a certain aversion? The student is silent. Yes, I can imagine it. You were told, I suppose, that I was the man who ruined your father. All who ruin themselves through foolish speculations consider they are ruined by those they couldn't fool. Now these are the facts. Your father robbed me of 17,000 crowns, the whole of my savings at that time. It's queer the same story can be told in two such different ways. You surely don't believe I'm telling you what isn't true. What am I to believe? My father didn't lie. That is so true. Father never lies. But I too am a father. And so, it follows. What are you driving at? I saved your father from disaster, and he repaid me with all that frightful hatred that is born of an obligation to be grateful. He taught his family to speak ill of me. Perhaps you made him ungrateful by poisoning your help with unnecessary humiliation. All help is humiliating, sir. What do you want from me? I'm not asking for the money. But if you will render me a few small services, I shall consider myself well paid. You see that I am a cripple. Some say it is my own fault, others lay the blame on my parents. I prefer to blame life itself with its pitfalls. For if you escape one snare, you fall headlong into another. In any case, I am unable to climb stairs or ring doorbells, and that is why I'm asking you to help me. What can I do? To begin with, push my chair so that I can read those playbills. I want to see what is on tonight. student pushing the chair. Haven't you got an attendant? Yes, but he has gone on an errand. He'll be back soon. Are you a medical student? No, I'm studying languages. But I don't know at all what I'm going to do. Ah. Are you good at mathematics? Yes, fairly. Good. Perhaps you would like a job. Yes, why not? Splendid. He studies the playbills. They are doing the Valkyrie for the matinee. That means the colonel will be there with his daughter. And as he always sits at the end of the 6th row, I'll put you next to him. Go to that telephone kiosk, please, and order a ticket for seat 82 in the 6th row. Am I to go to the opera in the middle of the day? Yes. Do as I tell you, and things will go well with you. I want to see you happy, rich, and honored. Your debut last night as the brave rescuer will make you famous by tomorrow, and then your name will be worth something. Student going to the telephone kiosk. What an odd adventure. Are you a gambler? Yes, unfortunately. We'll make it fortunately. Go on now. Telephone. The student goes. The old man reads his paper. The lady in black comes out to the pavement and talks to the caretaker's wife. The old man listens, but the audience hears nothing. The student returns. Did you fix it up? It's done. You see that house? Yes, I've been looking at it a lot. I passed it yesterday when the sun was shining on the window panes, and I imagined all the beauty and elegance there must be inside. I said to my companion, think of living up there in that top flat with such a beautiful young wife, 2 pretty little children, and an income of 20,000 crowns a year. So that's what you said. That's what you said. Well, I too am very fond of this house. Do you speculate in houses? Yes, but not in the way you mean. Do you know the people who live there? Every one of them. At my age, one knows everybody, and their parents and grandparents too. And one's always related to them in some way or other. I am just 80, but no one knows me. Not really. I take an interest in human destiny. The blinds of the round room are drawn up. The colonel is seen, wearing mufti. He looks at the thermometer outside one of the windows, then turns back into the room and stands in front of the marble statue. Look, that's the colonel, whom you will sit next to this afternoon. Is he? The colonel? I don't understand any of this, but it's like a fairy story. My whole life's like a book of fairy stories, sir. And although the stories are different, they are held together by one thread, and the main theme constantly recurs. Who is that a marble statue of? That, naturally, is his wife. Was she such a wonderful person? Yes. Tell me. We can't judge people, young man. If I were to tell you that she left him, that he beat her, that she returned to him and married him a second time, and that now she's sitting inside like a mummy worshipping her own statue, then you would think me crazy. I don't understand. I didn't think you would. Well, then we have the window with the hyacinths. His daughter lives there. She has gone out for a ride, but she will be home soon. And who is the dark lady talking to the caretaker? Well, that's a bit complicated. But it is connected with the dead man, up there where you see the white sheets. Why, who was he? A human being like you or me. But the most conspicuous thing about him was his vanity. If you were a Sunday child, you would see him presently come out of that door and look at the consulate flag flying at half-mast. He was, you understand, a consul, and he reveled in cornets and lions and plumed hats and colored ribbons. Sunday child, you say? I'm told I was born on a Sunday. No, were you really? I might have known it. I saw it from the color in your eyes. And you can see what others can't. Have you noticed that? I don't know what others do see. But at times... Oh, but one doesn't talk of such things. I was almost sure of it. But you can talk to me, because I understand such things. Well, yesterday, for instance, I was drawn to that obscure little street where later the house collapsed. I went there and stopped in front of that building which I had never seen before. Then I noticed a crack in the wall. I heard the floorboards snapping. I dashed over and picked up a child that was passing under the wall. The next moment the house collapsed. I was saved. But in my arms, which I thought I held, a child was nothing at all. Yes, just as I thought. Tell me something. Why were you gesticulating that way just now by the fountain? And why were you talking to yourself? Didn't you see the milkmaid I was talking to? Milkmaid? Surely. The girl who handed me the cup. Really? So that's what's going on. Oh, well, I haven't second sight, but there are things I can do. The fiancé is now seen to sit down by the window which has the window mirror. Look at that old woman in the window. Do you see her? Well, she was my fiancée once, 60 years ago. I was 20. Don't be alarmed. She doesn't recognize me. We see one another every day, and it makes no impression on me. Although once we vowed to love one another eternally. Eternally. How foolish you were in those days. Forgive us, young man. We didn't know any better. But can you see that old woman was once young and beautiful? It doesn't show. And yet there's some charm in her looks. I can't see her eyes. The caretaker's wife comes out with a basket of chopped fir branches. The caretaker's wife. That dark lady is her daughter by the dead man. That's why her husband was given the job of caretaker. But the dark lady has a suitor, who is an aristocrat with great expectations. He is in the process of getting a divorce. From his present wife, you understand. She's presenting him with a stone mansion in order to be rid of him. This aristocratic suitor is the son-in-law of the dead man, and you can see his bedclothes being aired on the balcony upstairs. It is complicated, I must say. It's fearfully complicated. Yes, that it is. Internally and externally, although it looks quite simple. But then, who was the dead man? You asked me that just now, and I answered. If you were to look around the corner where the tradesman entrance is, you would see a lot of poor people whom he used to help, when it suited him. Was he a kind man, then? Yes. Sometimes. Not always? No. But that's the way of people. Now, sir, will you push my chair a little so that it gets into the sun? I'm horribly cold. When you're never able to move about, the blood congeals. I'm going to die soon, I know that, but I have a few things to do first. Take my hand and feel how cold I am. Student, taking it. Yes, inconceivably. He shrinks back, trying in vain to free his hand. Don't leave me. I am tired now and lonely, but I haven't always been like this, you know. I have an enormously long life behind me, enormously long. I have made people unhappy, and people have made me unhappy. The one cancels out the other, but before I die, I want to see you happy. Our fates are intertwined through your father, and other things. Let go of my hand. You're taking all my strength, you're freezing me. What do you want with me? Be patient, and you shall see and understand. Here comes the young lady. They watch the girl approaching, though the audience cannot yet see her. The Colonel's daughter? His daughter, yes. Look at her. Have you ever seen such a masterpiece? She's like the marble statue in there. Well, that's her mother, you know. You're right. Never have I seen such a woman of woman born. Happy the man who may lead her to the altar and his home. You can see it. Not everyone recognizes her beauty. So then, it is written. The girl enters wearing an English riding habit. Without noticing anyone, she walks slowly to the door, where she stops to say a few words to the caretaker's wife. Then she goes into the house. The student covers his eyes with his hand. Are you weeping? In the face of what's hopeless, there can be nothing but despair. I can open doors and hearts, if only I find an arm to do my will. Serve me, and you shall have my power. Is it a bargain? Am I to sell my soul? Sell nothing. Listen. All my life I have taken. Now I have a craving to give. Give. But no one will accept. I am rich, very rich, but I have no heirs except for a good-for-nothing who torments the life out of me. Become my son. Inherit me while I am still alive. Enjoy life so that I can watch, at least from a distance. What am I to do? First, go to the Valkyrie. That's settled. What else? This evening you must be in there, in the round room. How am I to get there? By way of the Valkyrie. Why have you chosen me as your medium? Did you know me before? Yes, of course. I have had my eye on you for a long time. But now, look up there at the balcony. The maid is hoisting the flag to half-mast for the consul. And now she is turning the bedclothes. Do you see that blue quilt? It was made for two to sleep under. But now it covers only one. The girl, having changed her dress, appears in the window and waters the hyacinths. There's my little girl. Look at her, look! She is talking to the flowers. Is she not like that blue hyacinth herself? She gives them a drink, nothing but pure water, and they transform the water into color and fragrance. Now here comes the colonel with the newspaper. He's showing her the bit about the house that collapsed. Now he's pointing to your portrait. She's not indifferent. She's reading of your brave deed. I believe it's clouding over. If it turns to rain, I shall be in a pretty fix, unless Johansson comes back soon. It grows cloudy and dark. The fiancée at the window mirror closes her window. Now my fiancée is closing the window. 79 years old. The window mirror is the only mirror she uses, because in it she sees not herself, but the world outside, in two directions. But the world can see her. She hasn't thought of that. Anyhow, she's a handsome old woman. Now the dead man, wrapped in a winding sheet, comes out of the door. Good God, what do I see? What do you see? Don't you see? There, in the doorway, the dead man. I see nothing, but I expected this. Tell me. He's coming out into the street. Now he is turning his head and looking up at the flag. What did I tell you? You may be sure he'll count the wreaths and read the visiting cards. Woe to him who is missing. Now he's turning the corner. He's gone to count the poor at the back door. The The poor are in the nature of a decoration, you see, followed by the blessings of many. Well, he's not going to have my blessing. Between ourselves, he was a great scoundrel. But charitable. A charitable scoundrel always thinking of his grand funeral. When he knew his end was near, he cheated the state out of 50,000 crowns. Now his daughter has relations with another woman's husband and is wondering about the will. Yes, the scoundrel can hear every word we're saying, and he's welcome to it. Ah, here comes Johansson. Johansson enters. Report. Johansson speaks, but the audience does not hear. Not at home, eh? You are an ass. And the telegram? Nothing? Go on. At 6 this evening? That's good. Special edition, you say? With his name in full. Archenholtz, a student, born. Parents. That's splendid. I think it's beginning to rain. What did he say about it? So. He wouldn't? Well, he must. Here comes the aristocrat. Push me round the corner, Johansson, so I can hear what the poor are saying. And Archenholtz. You wait for me here. Understand? To Johansson. Hurry up now, hurry up. Johansson wheels the chair round the corner. The student remains watching the girl, who is now loosening the earth round the hyacinths. The aristocrat wearing mourning comes in and speaks to the dark lady, who has been walking to and fro on the pavement. Aristocrat. But what can we do about it? We shall have to wait. Lady. I can't wait. You can't? Well, then go into the country. I don't want to do that. Come over here, or they will hear what we are saying. They move towards the advertisement column and continue their conversation inaudibly. Johansson returns. Johansson to the student. My master asks that you not forget that other thing, sir. Student, hesitating. Look here. First of all, tell me, who is your master? Well, he's so many things. And he has been everything. Is he a wise man? Depends what that is. He says all his life he's been looking for a Sunday child, but that may not be true. What does he want? He's grasping, isn't he? It's power he wants. The whole day long he rides round in his chariot like the god Thor himself. He looks at houses, pulls them down, opens up new streets, builds squares. But he breaks into houses too, sneaks through windows, plays havoc with human destinies, kills his enemies, and never forgives. Can you imagine it, sir? This miserable cripple was once a Don Juan, although he always lost his woman. How do you account for that? You see, he's so cunning he makes the woman leave him when he's tired of them. But what he's most like now is a horse thief in the human market. He steals human beings in all sorts of different ways. He literally stole me out of the hands of the law. Well, as a matter of fact, I'd made a slip. Yes, and only he knew about it. Instead of getting me put in gaol, he turned me into a slave. I slave for my food alone. And that's none of the best. Then what is it he means to do in that house? I'm not going to talk about that. It's too complicated. I think I'd better get away from it all. The girl drops a bracelet out of the window. Look. The young lady has dropped her bracelet out of the window. The student goes slowly over, picks up the bracelet, and returns it to the girl, who thanks him stiffly. The student goes back to Johansson. So you mean to get away? That's not so easy as you think once he's got you in his net. And he's afraid of nothing between heaven and earth. Yes, of one thing he is. Of one person, rather. Don't tell me. I think perhaps I know. How can you know? I'm guessing. Is it a little milkmaid he's afraid of? He turns his head the other way whenever he meets a milk cart. Besides, he talks in his sleep. It seems he was once in Hamburg. Can one trust this man? You can trust him to do anything. What's he doing now round that corner? Listening to the poor, sowing a little word, loosening one little stone at a time, till the house falls down, metaphorically speaking. Do you still mean to go away? I don't like to be ungrateful. He saved my father once, and now he only asks a small service in return. What is that? I am to go to the Valkyrie. That's beyond me. But he's always up to new tricks. Look at him now, talking to that policeman. He was always thick with the police. He uses them, gets them involved in his interests, holds them with false promises and expectations, while all the time he's pumping them. You'll see that before the day is over, he'll be received in the round room. What does he want there? What connection has he with the colonel? I think I can guess, but I'm not sure. You'll see for yourself once you're in there. I shall never be in there. That depends on yourself. Go to the Valkyrie. Is that the way? Yes, if he said so. Look. Look at him in his war chariot, drawn in triumph by the beggars who get nothing for their pains but the hint of a treat at his funeral. The old man appears standing up in his wheelchair, drawn by one of the beggars and followed by the rest. Hail the noble youth who at the risk of his own life saved so many others in yesterday's accident. 3 cheers for Arkenholtz! The beggars bare their heads, but do not cheer. The girl at the window waves her handkerchief. The colonel gazes from the window of the round room. The old woman rises at her window. The maid on the balcony hoists the flag to the top. Clap your hands, citizens. True, it is Sunday, but the ass in the pits and the ear in the cornfield will absolve us. And although I am not a Sunday child, I have the gift of prophecy, and also that of healing. Once I brought a drowned person back to life. That was in Hamburg, on a Sunday morning just like this. The milkmaid enters, seen only by the student and the old man. She raises her arms like one who is drowning, and gazes fixedly at the old man. He sits down, then crumples up, stricken with horror. Johansson, take me away, quick! Arkenholtz, don't forget the Valkyrie. What is all this? Johansson, we shall see. We shall see. Scene 2. Inside the round room. At the back is a white porcelain stove. On either side of it are a mirror, a pendulum clock, and a candelabra. On the right of the stove is the entrance to the hall, beyond which is a glimpse of a room furnished in green and mahogany. On the left of the stove is the door to a cupboard, papered like the wall. The statue, shaded by palms, has a curtain which can be drawn to conceal it. A door on the left leads to the hyacinth room, where the girl sits reading. The back of the colonel can be seen, as he sits in the green room writing. Bengtsson, the colonel's servant, comes in from the hall. He is wearing livery, and is followed by Johansson, dressed as a waiter. Bengtsson. Now you'll have to serve the tea, Johansson, while I take the coats. Have you ever done it before? Johansson. It's true I push a war chariot in the daytime, as you know, but in the evenings I go as a waiter to receptions and so forth. It's always been my dream to get into this house. They're queer people here, aren't they? Bengtsson. Yes. A bit out of the ordinary, anyhow. Is it to be a musical party, or what? The usual ghost supper, as we call it. They drink tea and don't say a word, or else the colonel does all the talking. And they crunch their biscuits, all at the same time. It sounds like rats in an attic. Why do you call it the ghost supper? They look like ghosts. And they've kept this up for 20 years, always the same people saying the same things or saying nothing at all for fear of being found out. Isn't there a mistress of the house? Oh yes, but she's crazy. She sits in a cupboard because her eyes can't bear the light. He points to the paper door. She sits in there. In there? Well, I told you they were a bit out of the ordinary. But then, what does she look like? Like a mummy. Do you want to have a look at her? He opens the door. There she is. The figure of the colonel's wife is seen, white and shriveled into a mummy. Johansson. Oh my God. Mummy, babbling. Why do you open the door? Haven't I told you to keep it closed? Bengtsson, in a wheedling tone. Ta-ta-ta-ta. Be a good girl now, and then you'll get something nice. Pretty Polly. Mummy, parrot-like. Pretty Polly. Are you there, Jacob? Car! Bengtsson. She thinks she's a parrot, and maybe she's right. Whistle for us, Polly. The mummy whistles. Johansson. Well, I've seen a few things in my day, but this beats everything. Bengtsson. When a house gets old, it grows moldy. And when people stay a longer time together and torment each other, they go mad. The mistress of the house. Shut up, Polly! That mummy there has been living here for 40 years. Same husband, same furniture, same relatives, same friends. He closes the papered door. And the goings-on in this house, well, they're beyond me. Look at that statue. That's her when she was young. Good Lord. Is that the mummy? Yes. It's enough to make you weep. And somehow, carried away by her own imagination or something, she's got to be a bit like a parrot. The way she talks and the way she can't stand cripples or sick people. She can't stand the sight of her own daughter because she's sick. Is the young lady sick? Did you know that? No. And the colonel, who is he? You'll see. Johansson, looking at the statue. It's horrible to think that. How old is she now? Nobody knows. But it said that when she was 35, she looked 19. And that's what she made the colonel believe she was. Here, in this very house. Do you know what that black Japanese screen by the couch is for? They call it the death screen. And when someone's going to die, they put it round. Same as in a hospital. What a horrible house. And the student was longing to get in as if it were paradise. What student? Oh, I know. The one who's coming here this evening. The colonel and the young lady happened to meet him at the opera, and both of them took a fancy to him. Now it's my turn to ask questions. Who is your master? The man in the wheelchair. Oh. Is he coming here too? He hasn't been invited. He'll come uninvited. If need be. The old man appears in the hall on crutches, wearing a frock coat and top hat. He steals forward and listens. Bengtsson. He's a regular old devil, isn't he? Up to the ears. He looks like old Nick himself. And he must be a wizard too, for he goes through locked doors. The old man comes forward and takes hold of Johansson by the ear. Rascal! Take care! To Bengtsson. Tell the colonel I am here. Bengtsson. But we are expecting guests. I know. But my visit is good as expected, if not exactly looked forward to. What name shall I say? Mr. Hummel? Exactly. Yes. Bengtsson crosses the hall to the green room, the door of which he closes behind him. To Johansson. Get out! Johansson hesitates. Get out! Johansson disappears into the hall. The old man inspects the room and stops in front of the statue in much astonishment. Amelia. It is she. She. Mummy from the cupboard. Pretty Polly! The old man starts. What was that? Is there a parrot in the room? I don't see it. Mummy. Are you there, Jacob? The house is haunted. Jacob! I'm scared. So these are the kinds of secrets they guard in this house. With his back turned to the cupboard, he stands looking at a portrait. There he is. He. The mummy comes out from behind the old man and gives a pull at his wig. Mummy. Kerr! Old man, jumping out of his skin. God in heaven! Who is it? Mummy, in a natural voice. Is it Jacob? Yes, my name is Jacob. Mummy, with emotion. And my name is Amelia. No. No, no. Oh my God. That's how I look. Yes. Pointing to the statue. And that's how I did look. Life opens one's eyes, does it not? I live mostly in the cupboard to avoid seeing and being seen. But Jacob, what do you want here? My child. Our child. There she is. Old man, looking at the girl. Yes. That is she. What about her father? The colonel, I mean, your husband. Once when I was angry with him, I told him everything. Well, he didn't believe me. He just said, that's what all wives say when they want to murder their husbands. It was a terrible crime nonetheless. It has falsified his whole life, his family tree too. Sometimes I take a look in the peerage, and then I say to myself, here she is, going about with a false birth certificate like some servant girl, and for such things people are sent to the reformatory. Many do it. I seem to remember your own date of birth was given incorrectly. My mother made me do that. I was not to blame. And in our crime, you played the biggest part. No. Your husband caused that crime when he took my fiancée from me. I was born one who cannot forgive until he has punished. That was to me an imperative duty, and is so still. What are you expecting to find in this house? What do you want? How did you get in? Is it to do with my daughter? If you touch her, you shall die. I mean well by her. Then you must spare her father. No. Then you shall die. In this room behind that screen. That may be. But I can't let go once I've got my teeth into a thing. You want to marry her to that student. Why? He is nothing and has nothing. He will be rich. Through me. Have you been invited here tonight? No. But I propose to get myself an invitation to this ghost supper. Do you know who is coming? Not exactly. The Baron. The man who lives above, whose father-in-law was buried this afternoon. The man who is getting a divorce in order to marry the daughter of the caretaker's wife. The man who used to be your lover. Another guest will be your former fiancé, who was seduced by my husband. A select gathering. Oh God, if only we might die. Might die. Then why have you stayed together? Crime and secrets and guilt bind us together. We have broken our bonds and gone our ways, times without number, but we are always drawn together again. I think the colonel is coming. Then I must go to Adele. Jacob, mind what you do. Spare him. She goes into the hyacinth room and disappears. The colonel enters, cold and reserved, with a letter in his hand. Colonel. Be seated, please. Slowly the old man sits down. The colonel stares at him. You wrote this letter, sir? I did. Your name is Hummel? It is. As I understand, you have brought in all my unpaid promissory notes. I can only conclude that I am in your hands. What do you want? I want payment, in one way or another. In what way? A very simple one. Let us not mention the money. Just bear with me in your house as a guest. If so little will satisfy you. Thank you. What else? Dismiss Bankston. Why should I do that? My devoted servant who has been with me a lifetime, who has the National Medal for long and faithful service, why should I do that? That's how you see him. Full of excellent qualities. He is not the man he appears to be. Who is? Old man, taken aback. True. But Bankston must go. Are you going to run my house? Yes. Since everything here belongs to me. Furniture, curtains, dinner service, linen, and more. How do you mean, more? Everything. I own everything here. It's mine. Very well. It is yours. But my family escutcheon and my good name remain my own. No. Not even those. You are not a nobleman. How dare you, old man, producing a document. If you read this extract from the Immemorial Gazette, you will see that the family whose name you are using has been extinct for 100 years. I have heard rumors of this effect, but I inherited the name from my father. Reads. It is true. You are right. I am not a nobleman. Then I must take off my signet ring. It is true, it belongs to you. Gives it to him. There you are. Old man, pocketing the ring. Now we will continue. You are not a colonel either. I am not? No. You once held the temporary rank of colonel in the American Volunteer Force. But after the war in Cuba and the reorganization of the army, all such titles were abolished. Is this true? Old man, indicating his pocket. Do you want to read it? No, that's not necessary. Who are you? And what right have you to be there stripping me in this fashion? You will see. But as far as stripping you goes, do you not know who you are? How dare you? Take off that wig and take a look at yourself in the mirror. But take your teeth out at the same time and shave off your mustache. Let Bankston unlace your metal stays and perhaps a certain XYZ, a lackey will recognize himself. The fellow who was a cupboard lover in a certain kitchen. The colonel reaches for the bell on the table, but Hummel checks him. Don't touch that bell and don't call Bankston. If you do, I'll have him arrested. And now the guests are beginning to arrive. Keep your composure, and we will continue to play our old parts for a while. Who are you? I recognize your voice and eyes. Don't try and find out. Keep silent and obey. The student enters and bows to the colonel. How do you do, sir? Welcome to my home, young man. Your splendid behavior at the great disaster has brought your name to everybody's lips, and I count it an honor to receive you in my home. My humble descent, sir. Your illustrious name and noble birth. May I introduce Mr. Arkenholtz, Mr. Hummel. If you will join the ladies in there, Mr. Arkenholtz, I must conclude my conversation with Mr. Hummel. He shows the student to the hyacinth room, where he remains visible, talking shyly to the girl. Splendid young man. Musical, sings, writes poetry. If only he had blue blood in him. If he were of the same station, I don't think I should object. To what? To my daughter. Your daughter! But apropos of that, why does she spend all her time in there? She insists on being in the hyacinth room except when she is out of doors. It's a peculiarity of hers. Here comes Miss Beatrice von Holstein-Krone. A charming woman, a pillar of the church, with just enough money of her own to suit her birth and position. Old man, to himself. My fiancé. The fiancé enters, looking a little crazy. Colonel. Miss Holstein-Krone. Mr. Hummel. The fiancé curtsies and takes a seat. The aristocrat enters and seats himself. He is wearing mourning and looks mysterious. Baron Skanskorg. Old man, aside without rising. That's the jewel thief, I think. To the colonel. If you bring in the mummy, the party will be complete. Colonel, at the door of the hyacinth room. Polly! Mummy, entering. Grrr! Colonel. Are the young people to come in too? No, not the young people. They shall be spared. They all sit silent in a circle. Colonel. Shall we have tea brought in? What's the use? No one wants tea. Why should we pretend about it? Then shall we talk? Talk of the weather which we know. Inquire about each other's health which we know just as well. I prefer silence. Then one can hear thoughts and see the past. Silence cannot hide anything, but words can. I read the other day that differences of language originated among savages for the purpose of keeping one's tribe's secrets hidden from one another. Every language, therefore, is a code, and he who finds the key can understand every language in the world. But this does not prevent secrets from being exposed without a key, especially when there is a question of paternity to be proved. Proof in a court of law is another matter. 2 false witnesses suffice to prove anything about which they are agreed. But one does not take witnesses along to the kind of explorations I have in mind. Nature herself has instilled in human beings a sense of modesty which tries to hide what should be hidden. But we slip into situations unintentionally. And by chance, sometimes the deepest secret is divulged, the mask torn from the impostor, the villain exposed. All look at each other in silence. What a silence there is now. Here, for instance, in this honorable house, in this elegant home where beauty, wealth, and culture are united. All of us now sitting here know who we are, do we not? There's no need for me to tell you. And you know me, although you pretend ignorance. He indicates the hyacinth room. In there is my daughter. Mine. You know that too. She has lost the desire to live, without knowing why. The fact is she was withering away in this air charged with crime and deceit and falseness of every kind. That is why I looked for a friend for her in whose company she might enjoy the light and warmth of noble deeds. That was my mission in this house. To pull up the weeds, to expose the crimes, to settle all accounts so that those young people might start afresh in this home, which is a gift to them. Now, I am going to grant safe conduct to each of you in his and her proper time and turn. Whoever stays, I shall have arrested. Do you hear the clock ticking like a death watch beetle in the wall? Do you hear what it says? It's time. It's time. It's time. When it strikes, in a few moments your time will be up. Then you can go, but not before. It's raising its arm against you before it strikes. Listen! It is warning you. The clock can strike. And I can strike too. He strikes the table with one of his crutches. "Do you hear?" The mummy goes up to the clock and stops it, then speaks in a normal and serious voice. "Mummy, but I can stop time in its course. I can wipe out the past and undo what is done. But not with bribes, not with threats, only through suffering and repentance." She goes up to the old man. "We are miserable human beings. That we know. We have erred and we have sinned. We, like all the rest. We are not what we seem, because at bottom we are better than ourselves, since we detest our sins. But when you, Jacob Hummel, with your false name, chose to sit in judgment over us, you prove yourself worse than us miserable sinners. For you are not the one you appear to be. You are a thief of human souls. You stole me once with false promises. You murdered the consul who was buried today. You strangled him with debts. You have stolen the student, binding him by the pretense of a claim on his father, who never owed you a farthing." Having tried to rise and speak, the old man sinks back into his chair and crumples up more and more as she goes on. "But there is one dark spot in your life which I am not quite sure about, although I have my suspicions. I think Bengtsson knows." She rings the bell on the table. "No, not Bengtsson, not him. So he does know." She rings again. The milkmaid appears in the hallway door, unseen by all but the old man, who shrinks back in horror. The milkmaid vanishes as Bengtsson enters. "Do you know this man Bengtsson?" "Yes, I know him and he knows me. Life, as you are aware, has its ups and downs. I have been in his service. Another time he was in mine. For 2 whole years he was a sponger in my kitchen. As he had to be away by 3, the dinner was got ready at 2, and the family had to eat the warmed-up leavings of that brute. He drank the soup stock, which the cook then filled up with water. He sat out there like a vampire, sucking the marrow out of the house, so that we became like skeletons. And he nearly got us put in prison when we called the cook a thief. Later I met this man in Hamburg under another name. He was a usurer then, a bloodsucker. But while he was there, he was charged with having lured a young girl out into the ice so as to drown her, because she had seen him commit a crime he was afraid would be discovered." The mummy passes her hand over the old man's face. "Mummy, this is you. Now give it the notes and the will." Johansson appears in the hallway door and watches the scene with great interest, knowing he is now to be freed from slavery. The old man produces a bundle of papers and throws it on the table. The mummy goes over and strokes his back. "Parrot. Are you there, Jacob?" Old man, like a parrot. "Jacob is here. Pretty Polly." Mummy. "May the clock strike?" Old man, with a clucking sound. "The clock may strike. Cuckoo! Cuckoo! Cuckoo!" The mummy opens the cupboard door. Now the clock has struck. "Rise and enter the cupboard where I have spent 20 years repenting our crime. A rope is hanging there, which you can take as the one with which you strangled the consul, and with which you meant to strangle your benefactor. Go!" The old man goes into the cupboard. The mummy closes the door. "Bengtsson, put up the screen. The death screen." Bengtsson places the screen in front of the door. "It is finished. God have mercy on his soul. All. Amen." The girl and the student appear in the hyacinth room. She has a harp, on which he plays a prelude, and then accompanies the student's recitation. "I saw the sun. To me it seemed that I beheld the hidden. Men must reap what they have sown. Blessed is he whose deeds are good. Deeds which you have wrought in fury cannot in evil find redress. Comfort him you have distressed with loving kindness. This will heal. No fear has he who does no ill. Sweet is innocence. Scene 3. Inside the hyacinth room. The general effect of the room is exotic and oriental. There are hyacinths everywhere, of every color, some in pots, some with bulbs and glass vases, and the roots going down into the water. On top of the tiled stove is a large seated Buddha, in whose lap rests a bulb, from which rises the stem of a shallot, bearing its globular cluster of white star-like flowers. On the right is an open door, leading to the round room where the colonel and the mummy are seated, inactive and silent. A part of the death scene is also visible. On the left is a door to the pantry and kitchen. The student and the girl, Adele, are beside the table. He standing, she seated with her harp. Girl. Now sing to my flowers. Student. Is this the flower of your soul? The one and only. Do you too love hyacinth? I love it above all other flowers. Its virginal shape rising straight and slender out of the bulb, resting on the water and sending its pure white roots down into the colorless fluid. I love its colors, the snow white, pure as innocence, the yellowy honey sweet, the youthful pink, the ripe red, but best of all the blue, the dewy blue, deep-eyed and full of faith. I love them all, more than gold or pearls. I have loved them ever since I was a child, have worshipped them because they all have the fine qualities I lack. And yet... Go on. My love has not returned, for these beautiful blossoms hate me. How do you mean? Their fragrance, strong and pure as the early winds of spring which have passed over melting snows, confuses my senses, deafens me, blinds me, thrusts me out of the room, bombards me with the poisoned arrows that would wound my heart and set my head on fire. Do you know the legend of that flower? Tell it to me. First, its meaning. The bulb is the earth, resting on the water or buried in the soil. Then the stalk rises straight as the axis of the world. And at the top are 6 pointed star flowers. Above the earth, the stars. Oh, that's wonderful. Where did you learn this? How did you find it out? Let me think. In your eyes. And so, you see, it is an image of the cosmos. This is why Buddha sits holding the earth bulb, his eyes brooding as he watches it grow, outward and upward, transforming itself into a heaven. This poor earth will become a heaven. It is for this that the Buddha waits. I see it now. Is not the snowflake 6-pointed too like the hyacinth flower? You are right. Snowflakes must be falling stars. And now the snowdrop is a snow star, grown out of snow. But the largest and most beautiful of all the stars in the firmament, the golden red Sirius, is a narcissus with its gold and red chalice and 6 white rays. Have you seen the shallot in bloom? Indeed I have. It bears its blossoms within a ball, a globe like the celestial one strewn with white stars. Oh, how glorious! Whose thought was that? Yours. Yours. Ours. We have given birth to it together. We are wedded. Not yet. What's still to do? Waiting. Ordeals. Patience. Very well. Put me to the test. Tell me, why do your parents sit in there so silently, not saying a single word? Because they have nothing to say to each other, and because neither believes what the other says. This is how my father puts it. What's the point of talking when neither of us can fool the other? What a horrible thing to hear. Look at her, how big and fat she is. They watch the cook, although the audience cannot yet see her. What does she want? To ask me about the dinner. I have to do the housekeeping as my mother's ill. What do we have to do with the kitchen? We must eat. Look at the cook, though. I can't bear the sight of her. Who is that ogress? She belongs to the Hummel family of vampires. She is eating us. Why don't you dismiss her? She won't go. We have no control over her. We've got her for our sins. Can't you see that we are pining and wasting away? Don't you get enough to eat? Yes, we get many dishes, but all the strength is gone. She boils the nourishment out of the meat and gives us the fiber and water, while she drinks the stock herself. And when there's a roast, she first boils out the marrow, eats the gravy, and drinks the juices herself. Everything she touches loses its savor. It's as if she sucked with her eyes. We get the grounds when she has drunk the coffee. She drinks the wine and fills the bottle up with water. We'll send her packing. We can't. Why not? We don't know. She won't go. No one has any control over her. She has taken all our strength from us. May I get rid of her? No. It must be as it is. Here she is. She will ask me what is to be for dinner. I shall tell her. She will make objections and get her own way. Let her do the ordering herself, then. She won't do that. What an extraordinary house. It is bewitched. Yes. But now she's turning back, because she has seen you. The cook in the doorway. No, that wasn't the raisin. She grins, showing all her teeth. Get out, when it suits me. It does suit me now. She disappears. Don't lose your temper. Practice patience. She is one of those ordeals we have to go through in this house. You see, we have a housemaid too, whom we have to clean up after. I'm done for. Cornatere. Music. Wait. Music. Patience. This room is called the Room of Ordeals. It looks beautiful, but it's full of defects. Really? Well, such things must be seen to. It is very beautiful, but a little cold. Why don't you have a fire? Because it smokes. Can't you have the chimney swept? It doesn't help. You see that writing desk there? An unusually fine piece, but it wobbles. Every day I put a piece of cork under that leg, and every day the housemaid takes it away when she sweeps, and I have to cut a new piece. The pen holder is covered with ink every morning, and so is the inkstand. I have to clean them up every morning after that woman, as sure as the sun rises. What's the worst job you can think of? To count the washing. Ugh. That I have to do. Ugh. What else? To be waked in the middle of the night, and have to get up and see to the window, which the housemaid has left banging. What else? To get up on a ladder and tie the cord on the damper, which the housemaid has torn off. What else? To sweep after her, to dust after her, to light the fire in the stove when all she's done is throw in some wood. To see to the damper, to wipe the glasses, to lay the table over again, to open the bottles to see that the rooms are aired, to remake my bed, to rinse the water bottle when it is green with sediment, to buy matches and soap which are always lacking, to wipe the chimneys and trim the wick, to keep the lamps from smoking, and so that they don't go out when we have company, I have to fill them myself. Music. Wait. The labor comes first. The labor of keeping the dirt of life at a distance. But you are wealthy and have 2 servants. It doesn't help. Even if we had 3. Living is hard work, and sometimes I grow tired. Think, then, if there were a nursery as well. The greatest of joys, and the costliest. Is life worth so much hardship? That must depend on the reward you expect for your labors. I would not shrink from anything to win your hand. Don't say that. You can never have me. Why not? You mustn't ask. You dropped your bracelet out of the window because my hand has grown so thin. The cook appears with a Japanese bottle in her hand. There she is. The one who devours me and all of us. What has she in her hand? It is a bottle of coloring matter that has letters like scorpions on it. It is the soy which turns water into soup and takes the place of gravy. She makes cabbage soup with it, and mock turtle soup too. Student to cook. Get out! You drain us of sap, and we drain you. We take the blood and leave you the water, but colored. Colored. I am going now, but all the same I shall stay as long as I please. She goes out. Why did Bengtsson get a medal? For his great merits. Has he no defects? Yes, great ones. But you don't get a medal for them. They smile. You have many secrets in this house. As in all others. Permit us to keep ours. Don't you approve of candor? Yes. Within reason. Sometimes I'm seized with a raging desire to say all I think. But I know the world would go to pieces if one were completely candid. I went to a funeral the other day. In church. It was very solemn and beautiful. Was it Mr. Hummels? Yes. At the head of the coffin stood an old friend of the deceased. He carried the mace. I was deeply impressed by the dignified manner and moving words of the clergyman. I cried. We all cried. Afterwards we went to a tavern, and there I learned that the man with the mace had been in love with the dead man's son. The girl stares at him, trying to understand. And that the dead man had borrowed money from his son's admirer. Next day the clergyman was arrested for embezzling the church funds. A pretty story. Oh. Do you know how I am thinking about you now? Don't tell me, or I shall die. I must. Or I shall die. It is in asylums that people say everything they think. Exactly. My father finished up in an asylum. Was he ill? No. He was well. But he was mad. You see, he broke out once, in these circumstances. Like all of us, he was surrounded with a circle of acquaintances. He called them friends for short. They were a lot of rotters, of course, as most people are, but he had to have some society. He couldn't get on all alone. Well, as you know in everyday life, no one tells people what he thinks of them. And he didn't either. He knew perfectly well what frauds they were. He'd sound the depths of their deceit, but as he was a wise and well-bred man, he was always courteous to them. Then one day he gave a big party. It was in the evening, and he was tired by the day's work, and by the strain of holding his tongue, and at the same time talking rubbish with his guests. The girl is frightened. Well, at the dinner table he, rapped for silence, raised his glass and began to speak. Then something loosed the trigger. He made an enormous speech in which he stripped the whole company naked, one after the other, and told them of all their treachery. Then, tired out, he sat down on the table and told them all to go to hell. Oh. I was there, and I shall never forget what happened then. Father and mother came to blows. The guests rushed to the door, and my father was taken to a madhouse where he died. Water that is still too long stagnates. And so it is in this house, too. There is something stagnating here. And yet I thought it was paradise itself the first time that I saw you coming in here. There I stood that Sunday morning gazing in. I saw a colonel who was no colonel. I had a benefactor who was a thief and had to hang himself. I saw a mummy who was not a mummy and an old maid. What of the maidenhood, by the way? Where is beauty to be found? In nature, and in my own mind, when it is in its Sunday clothes. Where are honor and faith? In fairy tales and children's fancies. Where is anything that fulfills its promise? In my imagination. Now your flowers have poisoned me, and I have given the poison back to you. I asked you to become my wife in a home full of poetry and song and music. Then the cook came. Sursum corda. Try once more to strike fire and glory out of the golden harp. Try, I beg you, I implore you on my knees. Then I will do it myself. He picks up the harp, but the strings give no sound. It is dumb and deaf. To think that the most beautiful flowers are so poisonous, are the most poisonous. The curse lies over the whole of creation, over life itself. Why will you not be my bride? Because the very life spring within you is sick. Now I can feel that vampire in the kitchen beginning to suck me. I believe she is a lamia, one of those that suck the blood of children. It is always in the kitchen quarters that the seed leaves of the children are nipped, if it has not already happened in the bedroom. There are poisons that destroy the sight, and poisons that open the eyes. I seem to have been born with the latter kind, for I cannot see what is ugly as beautiful, nor call evil good. I cannot. Jesus Christ ascended into hell. That was his pilgrimage on earth. To this madhouse, this prison, this charnel house, this earth. And the madmen killed him when he wanted to set them free. But the robber they let go. The robber always gets the sympathy. Woe. Woe to us all. Savior of the world, save us. we perish. And now the girl has drooped, and it is seen that she is dying. She rings. Bankston enters. Bring the screen. Quick, I am dying. Bankston comes back with the screen, opens it, and arranges it in front of the girl. The liberator is coming. Welcome, pale and gentle one. Sleep, you lovely, innocent, doomed creature, suffering for no fault of your own. Sleep without dreaming. And when you wake again, may you be greeted by a sun that does not burn, in a home without dust, by friends without stain, by a love without flaw. You, wise and gentle Buddha, sitting there waiting for a heaven to sprout from the earth, grant us patience in our ordeal and purity of will, so that this hope may not be confounded. The strings of the harp hum softly, and a white light fills the room. I saw the sun. To me it seemed that I beheld the hidden. Men must reap what they have sown. Blessed is he whose deeds are good. Deeds which you have wrought in fury cannot in evil find redress. Comfort him you have distressed. With loving kindness, this will heal. No fear has he who does no ill. Sweet is innocence. A faint moaning is heard behind the screen. You poor little child. Child of this world of illusion, guilt, suffering, and death. This world of endless change, disappointment, and pain. May the Lord of Heaven be merciful to you upon your journey. The room disappears. Buchlin's picture, The Island of the Dead, is seen in the distance. And from the island comes music, soft, sweet, and melancholy. Curtain. And that is the end of Strindberg's Ghost Sonata, written in 1907. As always, consider following, subscribing, so you can see whatever I'm going to do next. If you have plays of your own or have plays that you would like to have read, contact me at my email, bemuseartsinc@gmail.com. And I hope that you have a lovely rest of your day. And I hope to have you back in Brendan Moyer's Playwright Corner. Thank you.